Hello, everyone. Welcome to Weekend Wind Down with Business Coach Nancy. Cheers, everyone. Happy New Year. I haven't been here. I think it's been like a month and a half to 2 months because some of you know this already, I was moving. I moved from the house I raised my children in, and I lived for 20 years, maybe 21. And moved to another town on Long Island, and I'm doing a little rental thing. So relaxing to be renting and not be owning. I'm sure that's a whole tax relief conversation we could have with my guest today, Peter Lang, Designer CPA. But I want to just welcome everyone back to Weekend Wind Down. We are fully booked up through the end of May for my weekend wind downs. So we have some exciting guests coming up. So I hope you'll join me every week. Please share the broadcast. Hi, Joe. Let me just see if I can see who's in the chat. Hey, how are you, Joe? The man who started it all, the one who I mimicked his lives. Hi, Darcy. So as you come on, say hi to me, let me know. Hi, Adam. Adam just got my course. You know, I came out with a course. That was also the reason why I had to stop Weekend Wind Down for a little while. I was buried in putting my everything into this course. And of course, dealing with my one-on-one clients. Hi, Christine. So I don't want to waste time giving you updates on me. If you need updates on me, then you should be in my group, the Interior Design Business Forum, where I am trying to go live every day, and it is the 4th, and I have gone live every day. So far, so good. One of my New Year's resolutions. So let me bring in my guest today, Peter Lang, Designer CPA. He's sitting in a lobby. I use Be Live. So hi, Peter.
Hi, Nancy. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Cheers.
Oh, yeah. Cheers.
Happy digital cheers. Happy New Year. Don't you love this? My kids, number one mom, get me a wine glass. That might not say something so good about me. I don't know.
Hey, listen, today was the first day after being with my wife for 10 years. I left the house with a bottle of wine, a bottle opener, and a glass. And today was the first day she wanted to come to work with me. She said, "What are you up to today?" I said, "Oh, I'm networking."
Tell her.
I'm networking.
Absolutely. That's what we're doing. I want to say hi to Heather. So again, guys, if you can share this broadcast, I have a great lineup of guests coming up over the next 6 months, are already booked for my Fridays, the weeks I'm not traveling, and the weeks I'm not away. And the reason why I particularly wanted to talk to Peter is because he is one, hi Sharon, he's one of the authors, as I am, in Luann Nagara's new book that's coming out. And I think it's called What I Learned from a Well-Designed Business. But she's rolling it out at a big event at the end of March. It's a 3-day event. And I checked with her today, and there's over 30 signups already. And the VIP, which is limited to I don't know how many, is already almost sold out. So if anyone hasn't gotten in on that yet, we will post, I hope Caden's on here with me. Caden will post a link to that. So get in before the price goes up. She's kind of rolling it out as an early bird special. And it's just such a great deal. Peter, don't you agree? It's how many authors?
It's going to be awesome. The 12 experts, it's going to be a lot of information. So I'm excited to get out of the office at the end of March. This is the first time I'll be out of the office and doing everything and getting out there and networking and educating people, hopefully in a fun way, about accounting and tax.
Yeah, that's got to be hard to make this fun, but we're going to try to start them off today as a little precursor to what they're going to see more in depth at Luann's event today. And because it's the end of the year, I thought, what a great time to have you on. So thank you for being my first guest of 2019.
Yeah, this is exciting. I'm glad I got in time before I'd have to wait till the summer.
So tell us let's just start us off with why we should know our numbers and what happens if we don't.
Yeah, so the good news is, because I always start by saying that I know that a lot of business owners in the design industry will be nervous and petrified about finances and accounting, so a lot of times it's ignored. And I always start by saying, well, I'm nervous about, design my be nervous too. I don't have a clue. So it's really important that you have someone on your team that you can ask questions and will help you understand. And as a business owner, the excuse of, well, I don't need to know that because I'm a designer. You're only going to do better things with building a knowledge over time. So even though right now you may say, well, I feel clueless about it, that's okay. Just keep asking questions, and you'll learn over time.
The problem is we really do feel stupid when we're asking questions. It's like some of the really, like, I don't understand what this number means. I mean, I'm a business coach and I still look at my balance sheet and my income statement sometimes and I go, I don't know exactly like what that number is.
Right. And I know that part of the problem is that a lot of accountants don't really have a personality, and they make people feel, and it's not just people in the design industry, but a lot of them will make people feel stupid by asking questions. So the good thing is with shows like this and different webinars, there are people out there that are trying to educate people so that they're learning and hopefully feeling more educated. So
right, a little bit more comfortable. Okay, so I want to start, I don't know if I want to start with the smaller and then work our way to the bigger stuff, but I wrote a list of questions and I told Peter right before the broadcast, so you guys know. Hi, Margaret. I woke up with an abundance of questions in my head, and I should have wrote them down. Then all of a sudden I was like, oh my God, I had so many great questions this morning. So first, definitely go and listen to Peter's episode of a well-designed business podcast on Luann. He was episode number 349. So you can get a little background on him. And I don't want to waste time on this episode giving a full background on you, Peter, because Luann did that with you, plus got into some really great stuff on that podcast. So for anyone who wants to listen to a little bit about Peter and his journey, go listen to Luann's podcast, A Well-Designed Business, episode number 349, so that we can get right into, how you run your interior design business and how you know whether you're profitable or not. So as a coach, I can't tell you how many times I ask people, what did you make last year gross and what did you make net? And they're like, I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. Let's start from the beginning where, do you hear that?
No, I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, it's an echo. Sorry. So hopefully, I say, like, there's a lot of people that are doing their goals and ideas for 2019. And so everyone's thinking forward, but the key is that you want to look back and look at your information. So I would say the key is to make sure that you're using some sort of cloud-based accounting software, whether it's something that is in project design software as well. But that's really, if you're trying to do things through spreadsheets still, because I still have people who start businesses and they say, I'm not big enough, so I'm just kind of doing it through the spreadsheet. That's a recipe for disaster. I mean, even as accountants, when we try to do things in spreadsheets, I mean, human error is what it is. So if you're using like the robots to automate things, there's different softwares that you can use to get that in. So to start off in 2019, when you're figuring out your goals, I would say make sure that you look back, and if let's say it's someone, let's start with someone who is using software.
Well, let's talk about the software first. So we're talking about QuickBooks, either desktop or online. I always recommend online because you can get it from anywhere.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
FreshBooks is an option, but it's not as it's good for people who are just starting out.
Okay. So if you're just starting out, FreshBooks is okay, but is there any reason why you shouldn't just go to QuickBooks Online?
I would. I
You would.
would. Yeah. And then there are other people who have like inventory or like more detailed projects. Like if they're rocking and rolling and they got like five projects at once, they kind of sometimes they'll use Design Manager or Studio Web and kind of do that because it's more robust reporting based on the design industry. I see a question here.
Yeah, I'm putting them up there as I see them. And we
Oh.
also,
Okay, so what software does Peter prefer designers use? I always say that it's up to you as a designer because you are in it every day with the project stuff, and the accounting is the accounting. So I always say the accountant that you have, their responsibility is to learn the software that you prefer.
thank you.
Because that's, and if, and a lot of times, and what will happen with traditional old school accountants is they say QuickBooks, 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 because that's all they've ever seen. But I'm going to tell you that QuickBooks has a large market share, but they're not the best design software. And
All right.
there are things out there that I use Design Manager and I love it. Yeah. So great. Keep using Design Manager. And if you ever had someone tell you you can't use it anymore, if they're an accountant, then go find someone who does know Design Manager. So I will tell you, I have a client last year who was using the Ivy QuickBooks Online integration, and it wasn't working for their business, for what was going on for them. They were afraid to make a change, and I told them, all these companies do a free trial software. So do a free software and see what happens. You might love it, or a new one, or you may realize the one you're using is the best for now. But the beauty is that you can change at any time. So there are people that you can find that kind of prefer different ones, and like I said, it's all about what works for you when you're trying to deal with managing projects.
Yeah, and I say the same thing. I love Sarah from Idoma, Risa from Ivy, and all the others. Like, I don't recommend one in particular because I always say, just like you're saying, when it comes to the accounting software, it depends how your brain works.
Mm-hmm.
And it depends once you get on it, if you're comfortable with it, if it's natural for your flow.
Right.
And I have clients on both those and others, and sometimes they love it, other people hate it. It's very interesting. It really is based on the way your brain works, I feel like.
My clients will switch back and forth. I'll have one client switch from Ivy to Design Manager, and the other one's going from Design Manager to Ivy. It's just because of what they prefer at the time or what works best for them.
Is there one or the other that you feel? Well, I think they're all working on their accounting side, so we really shouldn't say if one is integrating better right now.
Okay, so I can tell you that some Design Manager has more robust reporting, but it's more, this is kind of an important thing to say, it's more tedious. You have to an accountant or a bookkeeper or an office manager, whoever's doing your accounting, has to hand code all your transactions because they want it to be connected to different things like POs and proposals and that kind of thing. That's how they get the reporting to work. So if you're using Design Manager, you might be paying way more in accounting or in bookkeeping than someone who's using QuickBooks Online and Ivy, because QuickBooks can connect to those accounts.
Interesting.
And the bank and the credit card will automatically import it in the system, and whoever's doing it just kind of has to check and make sure that it's going to the right account.
Okay.
So what I've learned in the last year is that there's got to be a better. So if you've made software out there and you're hearing this, let's make the ultimate thing where it's robust with the reporting, it's awesome for project management, and it connects to those accounts. And I'd be doing backflips. I know a lot of designers that would be. So that's the thing. I would say if the design manager and all that kind of extra stuff is very important to you, then by all means use it. Just know that the accounting side might take longer than if
Yes.
you were using QuickBooks
Which
Online.
could cost you more because your
And
account is
yeah,
spending more time. All right, let me just go through comments really quick. Oh, we got some new people here today. Welcome. Kate uses Gather. That's what I put up on the screen. That's actually a name of a software that she uses. Have you ever heard of that?
I haven't, but I can't wait to check it out.
Yeah, Kate, tell us a little bit about Gather. So QuickBooks, let's see. Heather says, yeah, that I want a robust accounting system integrated into the system.
Right. That
It's
would be awesome.
It would be awesome. And that's really
I'm sure there's a reason why it hasn't happened yet. I'm sure it's probably very expensive or something, but you know, that's my wish.
Yes, that would be my wish too. Okay, so when it comes to people, I wanted to ask you right down to what people end up asking me. When I say to them, how much did you make? They go, well, I don't know. I ran a lot through my business that was kind of personal, and I don't know if I should be telling you that.
Yeah. So when we do that, what I usually do with my clients is we kind of go over it, and then maybe I'll do a spreadsheet or something else where I'm like, okay, if you go in the system and you look at your profit and loss, and it says your profit is whatever it is, we have to add back those items. And I put them in line by line, like the cell phone and the new kitchen at your house or something like that, whatever. That's what you really made. So, if someone quickly looked at their reports, they could say, well, I didn't really make any money this year, but that's why we kind of go over things in detail, and so that the real numbers come out.
So your profit and loss is going to show what came in and out of your accounts, but you're saying as their CPA, you can sit down with them and say, okay, you may show that you made $10,000 this year, but you really made 60 because you redid your entire kitchen and you ran it.
And right now it's under an expense as if it was a business expense, but it really wasn't. So when I take that out, now you made 70,000 this year.
So do you then adjust their business books? So do you discuss it with them? How does that work?
So we usually have a discussion to figure out what exactly happened. And then, once we figure out what exactly it was for, because sometimes it would be like, listen, I redid my house and I got pictures taken. Is that can't I just deduct all of it? And I usually say, chances are if the IRS comes in and audits you and hears the whole story and finds out there was no other reason than to just upgrade your personal residence, and it's not your home office and you have a separate place where you have, you're paying rent or you own a building and that's where your business is, they're going to back it out. So we either back it out, we're going to back it out if you ever get audited. So
they're going to back it out and they're going to charge you interest and penalties on that. So,
and then they're not going to trust you anymore. And then all of a sudden they're going to say, oh, you know what? We're going to actually look at last year too. And maybe the year before. And then before you know it, you can't get rid of them. Because once they find one thing, it's like, oh, this is great. My boss is going to love the fact that I'm finding all this stuff. I'm not leaving until I get all of it. And I've seen
that happen.
I did in past job. There wasn't as much communication as there should have been throughout the year. The tax return was done. It was on the books as if it was a project, and one of the clients had actually just completely renovated their vacation home. But it was sitting there in cost of goods sold as if it was all part of, a project. And a couple of years later, they got audited, and when the auditor was looking at the POs and the vendor invoices, it was the same address as their personal residence, or an address that was on their tax return, or something happened. And there, it was like, there it was. And they tried to say, well, that's our showroom, but they had a showroom elsewhere. And it was, so at any rate, 2 years later, it was a big, I mean, we're talking like a $60,000 adjustment. Now you're adding penalties and interest over a couple of years. And of course, they blamed the accountant and said that you should have asked the question, you know, that kind of stuff. So it's all about communication. You know, that can happen and it cannot. I mean, I don't know. That was earlier in my career, and I kind of just did the tax return, so I wasn't really involved. I had heard the stories, but I think that they knew, you know, deep down inside, they knew they had renovated their personal residence. I think
of course.
They were trying to get away with it. So.
Okay. So in other words, talk to your accountant on a regular basis.
Yeah, I would say at least quarterly. You know, I was saying before, we talk to our clients at least quarterly, and if they refuse to talk to us, then they're not a good fit for us. And we do that just because I can't know what's going on, and I can't give you advice throughout the year. And I always say I can give you a lot more advice before the year is up than if you came to me in February or March and say, oh, can we deduct something from last year, whatever, or can we do this? And a lot of things, there's things you can do, but you know, not everything. So
very smart. I just want to say hi to a couple of people. And yes, Kate, I would love you to do a presentation on Gather, because I have no idea what that is either. Christine will answer your question next. And Jaya, I don't want to say your name wrong, but absolutely, there is really wine in my glass. She asked, is there really wine in your glass? Yes, there is. I even have the bottle sitting here. And oh, Luann is here. Hey, Luann, we just talked about your event. I don't know if we got the link in the comments yet. So if you are still on, put your link to the live event. I just told them that there's 30 people and that the VIP is almost sold out or getting close to filling up. I don't know the exact numbers, so please put your link in there, because I can't multitask, and I don't think Caden's here because he's busy working on my stuff. So I would appreciate that. So let's get to Christine's question. What's the best way for us to track our profitability?
Well, if you're using like a cloud-based accounting software, the best report to look at is the profit and loss report. So that kind of shows what your profit is as if you were filing a tax return. But I always say that the second step is actually doing like some sort of cash flow analysis, because your profitability could say one thing, but you could have spent your money paying back loans or paying yourself, or what, you know, you could show a $70,000 profit, but really only have, you know, 5,000 in the bank because, you know, you had to pay off old debt or old credit card bills, that kind of thing.
But doesn't it start, let's go back even to track your profitability. I like my clients to actually go after a job is complete, go back and look at that job and see what your profit margin was on that job. And if you're starting to improve your profit margin on each individual job, in the end, your profitability overall.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and the other thing is you know, you've got two things. You've got markups on products, and then you've got an hourly rate that you're doing with. So a lot. I actually read something the other day on a different Facebook, and they were talking about a group. They were talking about the fear of either increasing their rate, or an old client, should you go back and use an old rate because they hadn't worked like for 2 or 3 years with that client, and people were giving me advice on different things you do. But I deal with this a lot as a service provider as well. You know, you kind of feel bad. Are they going to accept me, whatever? And it's just important that you're charging fair market value. You're charging what you're worth. So
that's totally what I'm all about, because if you're not charging what you're worth, you're basically not probably profitable enough to be a thriving business, which means you're really a hobby. And I'm okay with that. If you
Yep.
want to do design as a hobby on the side and you're just enjoying it and it's keeping you busy and you're just getting a little money for it to cover your expenses, then that's your choice. But if you're actually looking to be a profitable business owner, a profitable interior design firm, whether you're one or many, you need to look at each individual job, and then you need to look up at the roll up of the numbers. And like you're saying, which I don't even think I do, I don't do it consistently, meet with my accountant quarterly. We kind of haphazard about it, but we do talk. Um, Otherwise, you really don't know. And the other thing is, you probably see this all the time. People take in a big, large sum of money for furnishings that they're buying, and they pay the vendor 50%. They're sitting with all this money, and suddenly they feel rich. So I'm not a
Oh, yeah.
first coach like Michelle Williams, which I love that whole system, but it actually even boggles my mind. So I simplify it. I like my clients to have at least 3 accounts.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Great
Because
idea.
otherwise they're just going to spend, they don't really know, like right now, what do you have to spend? If you decided to go to High Point Market right now, or to go to Luann's event, or to buy my course, or to hire Peter, do you know that you can afford this looking, or you're taking a leap of faith and you're going to do it knowing it's going to increase your business in the end, which is the way I like to do things. Do you know what you actually have in your bank account that's not ready to be paid out? How much do you see designers doing this, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, I agree with you. At least 2 or 3 accounts, keeping that separate. So clients that have multiple accounts, and I find that those clients are more profitable, have less stress, a healthier business, and they get it. They're growing. The ones that still have one account and they, to do that, or they're just too busy to look at it and make a change, they're more the type that are constantly paying credit card interest because they've spent the money they should have paid on that project. Now they have to buy it, so they put it on the credit card and they can't pay it off until that next project comes in, and we're constantly playing catch up, and I always say, if you have $100,000 project and you put it in and you know that your profit's going to be somewhere around 20%, keep that 80,000 in there, in that account. Don't touch it until further on down in the project, and maybe things change, but maybe so. Having that operating account and only touching that operating account is important.
Okay, so Kate's saying she has 3 accounts, an operating account for the business expenses, then a trust account for clients, and a savings account. Are there any other accounts? Like, what do you recommend to a client?
I recommend at least, so sometimes people will have like a client account where all the money goes in, and then an operating account is, where you think the profit's going to be. And then some people will have a separate account just for payroll, so that they're taking that so they're moving it, they're getting all the money and they're putting in the client goods account, let's say. They're figuring out what the profit is and they're throwing that in the operating account. And then they're taking that money in the operating account and they're kind of always figuring out how much, if you have help, or if you have a goal in mind on how much you want to pay yourself, they're figuring that out and they're taking that money out of the operating account and they're putting it in a payroll account so that they don't spend. They say, okay, I have $20,000 in my operating account and I have to, pay the rent for the office, pay this, pay that, whatever. Now we don't have enough money to pay our employees. So some people will keep a separate account for payroll just to kind of, as they put money in, they look at it a couple of times a month, however often you run payroll. And then I like the idea of the savings account, or some people call it like a vault account, where it's like they will put a certain amount away for that big purchase. So it may not be enough. It may not be a lot, but maybe a little bit every year that you're putting away in a vault, so that, let's say you have that money in the vault and you're tight on cash at the end of the day, and something comes up like this event that Luann's having, you really want to go, now you can take it out of the vault account and it's not going to hurt the operations of the business, or it's not going to hurt like, I really want to go, but am I going to be able to make payroll? take it out of the vault account. You use it as an investment, and the that kind of thing. So
I like that. It's like that. That's kind of your profit that you're pulling out. Do you recommend a certain percentage, or you base it on each individual business?
So, as far as profit's concerned, I mean, obviously, the higher the. Some people will start at 5%, and some people will start at 1. They'll say like, I don't know if I can do it. So you start at 1, and in 3 months you reassess it. Can I go up to 2 or 3 or 5? And then ideally it would be nice. A lot of people start around 5 and they try to go to 15, 20, 25%. And then the only other account that I see people will do is this is from probably a tax account.
I was just going to ask you about that sales tax. If they're collecting sales tax.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're marking up your goods and you're collecting sales tax, yes. So all that money that's going into like a client goods account, figuring out how much was actually customers paying sales tax, and then a month later or a quarter later, you have to pay for it. Putting that money into a sales tax account so that when it's due and you file a return and whatever jurisdiction's taking that money out of the sales tax account, it's in and out, and you don't even, because I do have a lot of clients that have kind of tried to take, they didn't mean to, but like they get money for sales tax or for something else. Now sales tax is due and they filed the return, but they can't pay. And now you've got penalties and interest with the jurisdictions. And you don't want to, you want to file and pay your sales tax and your income tax. You got enough to worry about running a business. You don't want the authorities to be like, oh, you start to get the notices. Where's the return? Where's the payment? And the penalties and interest.
That's why I like to tell them, when you get a check, and there's all kinds of things mixed in there. There's taxes, there's product, there's your markup, there's hourly rate sometimes. I tell them, put in the operating expense account and then pull out anything that's going to be a payable. Yeah. Whether it's the tax, whether it's a product, whether it's freight, anything that out of that money that just came in is going to go out the door. Put it in like a payable account.
Yep. And don't touch it until you have to.
Do not touch it. Then you're left in your operating expense account with your free and clear money, so to speak. But yes, then that's your operating expenses. That's your office expenses, your staff, your accountant, it's actually your own income tax as well has to come out of that account.
Yeah.
Okay. And yes, Nicole just put in the whole profit first. I'll bring it up. And I tried this. And again, for people who can do it, more power to them. It was too many accounts for me. That's why I ended up going down to 3. Right? Yeah. I
tried to do it with my own business to have 6 or 7, and it kind of freaked me out to have that many. There was always something going on. But if I would say to Nicole, if it works for you, then the accountant just doesn't want to do the extra work with the transfers and everything. But if it works for you, then by all means keep going, do it.
Yeah, I have the book on my shelf and I thought this is fabulous. But when I tried to do it, well, one, my bank didn't want to open up that many accounts for me. And I know they give a list of banks that'll do it for you. But then I'm like, oh, I got to switch banks and I got to change all my QuickBooks and all my, pay funnels and all the systems that I use. I'm like, forget it. I'm not doing that.
So I would say for anyone who hasn't set it up yet, but is interested in doing it, make sure you're using, a lot of the local banks will do it. They're more customer friendly and they'll do it. You just want to make sure that that local branch still has invested in technology enough that if you're using the QuickBooks Online, you can still connect those accounts. And so because what I've seen is some people will go to the local credit union, get, free checking. They open 6 or 7 accounts and now that bank's not caught up with technology. And now they're hand coding every transactions in QuickBooks Online because it doesn't connect. And, now they're, wasting more time with accounting. So.
Right. All right, Dana says, where does the money for design hours go?
Yep. So if that's you, you do whatever you want with it, because there's no you besides that percentage that you're going to pay on income tax. But there's no, I usually what happens is if I have a customer who puts it all into like a client account and then puts everything into an operating account, if they know that it's a time bill and everything is work that they did, they'll throw it all into the operating account and then take 15% and put it in the tax account just so that they have it there for their own personal income tax.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was going to say. Also, Dana, that stays in the operating expense minus the percent, which Peter just gave you, take about 15% and put it in the payable account, because when your income tax comes due, you're going to owe that to the government. So you don't want to have that in your operating expense account looking like, oh, I can spend that. You want to make sure you calculate and pull out what you can't really spend because you owe it to somebody else. Okay, let's see what else we have going on here. Nicole uses TFCU Credit Union.
Oh, cool. Okay, good, perfect. So they're letting you open 7 accounts and it's connected to QuickBooks. That's awesome.
Yeah, that is pretty awesome. And Luann said she loved, let me see. Ooh, why won't it let me post Luann's comment here? She loves Profit First because it introduces the concept of value. So absolutely. It's true. People really just think, I run a business, I have one business account. And we're really teaching people, and it's true, Profit First really does introduce this idea that all the money you take into the business is not yours.
Yeah.
It's owed to other people, it's owed to the government, and we don't want you to make a mistake and do what Peter said and like spend the money and suddenly you're on credit cards and you can't pay it off, because we all do it. You look at your account and see $50,000, you're gonna be like, oh, yay. And your emotion kicks in, and then you don't want to stop and go, wait, but how much of that do I actually owe to a carpet company, a furniture company, window treatment, or for taxes?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's really key. So let's go back to, do you recommend, because I know what I recommend, how much each job should be profitable in order to really be running a nice business that you feel like you're not always strangled for money?
I mean, I would think it would be somewhere between 30 and 35%.
I'm at 40 or better.
Sure, that's even better. Yeah.
I don't mean business. I mean, I teach that.
Right. Yeah.
They have to, I'm probably there. I actually have to figure it out myself. Shush. But it's the end of the year. I haven't done my numbers yet. But yeah, you should be at least a 40% profit margin on each individual job. And if you do that consistently, you will be running a profitable interior design business.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And of course, you've got to, get the clients and all that stuff.
I find a lot of my clients are, they're around 30 or 35, but they're striving for that 40 and above number. So it's just a matter of
send them to me, I'll get them there.
There you go.
Because it really does. I mean, and this is what I spoke about in Luann's new book coming up, although I haven't read what the editors did, Luann, so I don't know if what I really stayed. So I get a little nervous, but I wrote about how, your confidence is related directly to how much you value yourself to other people and how you need to charge what you're worth.
Absolutely.
And that's what I work with people on every single day. Luann agrees, has to be 40 or above, she said. Yeah, I mean, some people teach even 60%. That's hard to get to, but that 40% profit margin is not actually that hard to get to once you start really feeling your value and understanding the words you can use with a client to make them understand your value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's yeah, it's like the suspense. Yes, we're all in suspense. So Peter, what did you write about in the book?
It could be anything at this point. I don't know. I haven't seen it either. No, I talked a lot about if you don't have an accountant, like the things you can ask an accountant to get a good feeling before you work on them. Or I told a lot of stories about how you may feel right now working with an accountant and that gut feeling of this isn't the right person for me. So I just, talked about that, and I also talked about reports and certain things that you can't ignore as a business owner. And I believe I got into different types of business entities and taxes and that kind of stuff. But I tried to not make that too boring.
Yeah,
you don't want to get to the chapter on taxes and then say, what, this book got boring all of a sudden. But it's still really important.
Maybe you're somewhere in the middle where people can get through it. And then, not that, I don't know if anything we all talk about is that exciting, but it is all about running a profitable business.
Absolutely.
And that's what it's all about. So give me an idea of, if you don't like your accountant, or it's not that you don't like him personally, it's that you just don't feel comfortable calling and asking any question, or you're not getting the responsiveness, or you're getting some pushback on the systems you're using.
Yep.
What do you say?
I say it doesn't hurt to call someone else and just have different questions and see if they're taking new clients, and see the most important thing is do they have experience in the design industry? Because in the interior design business is unique than other. And what I find is that when I get a new client and I look back at their tax return, or I look back on different things that they have, the accountant may say, yeah, I understand, but they may not understand. So see if you just need to feel comfortable. You need to feel like you can trust the person, and even if they don't, specialize in the design industry, they have to understand.
Yeah, they have to be willing to understand or have experience. It really is very unique.
I was going to tell a story because this is a great time to do it, and I don't want to get too boring, but it actually is very important because I've seen this go either way. When you file a tax return, whether you do it yourself or you have someone else do it, there's an option, and you can either be the cash method of accounting or the accrual method of accounting. And I'm not saying that one is wrong and the other is not, but it's very important that you know what is on your tax return, because a lot of the softwares, the design softwares, they all run on the accrual basis. And let me give you a lot of accountants in their head, if they're traditional tax preparers, they're just thinking like the cash basis is the easiest and probably the best way to go to save money. But let me just tell you a story about what happens.
Wait, can we explain that first, though? Because I don't know if everyone understands the difference between the cash
and the accrual. Okay, yeah.
When it comes in, they're taking
money in, money out, whatever. The difference is, if you're filing on a cash basis, that's what you pay taxes on. Okay. The accrual basis is in different types of industries. If you have receivables, you may have to pay tax on that. And on the other end, if you have payables, expenses that have happened but you haven't paid from them yet, you can, on the accrual basis, you have to include both of those things.
So wait. So if they're on the accrual, are you recommending that designers be on the accrual, because they could be sitting with all this money in their account at the end of a quarter?
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to say that I would, but most of my clients, it's easier to be on the accrual method. And let me just tell you why at this point in January, because this just happened, and I switched a bunch of my clients to the accrual, new clients, because this is what could potentially happen. You've been working all year on this big project. It's going to be the biggest project that you've ever had, and your client is thinking about it. And in December, they finally sign the project and they cut you a check for $100,000, because that's how much the project's going to be. But you're not going to get started till January, February of the following year. You're not going to spend any money yet. So if you're on the cash basis of accounting, so you could look in your system and it's on the accrual, but your accountant who does your taxes might have put cash basis. You give them you give them the report in the following year. They look and they say, the IRS says, oh, you got 100,000? Great. Pay taxes on that full amount, because it's money that came in. Because on the tax return, it says cash basis. So you got to file the cash basis. You got to pay taxes on that.
Oh. So if
Yeah.
they go for the
You're
accrual,
on the accrual basis, then it's based on when the work is done. So that would be considered, a client, you receive money from the client, and so it doesn't get taxed until the project is complete in the following year.
completed, or do you accrue it over time? So for
Well,
example,
you should be accruing it over time.
okay,
But
so
if it's in a situation where you got it, like in my story, where you got a ton of money in December and the project hasn't even started yet,
yes.
then all of that amount is going to sit there and not get taxed till the following year.
Okay, so I teach my clients to never have outstanding bills with their, like, in other words, get paid in advance, even for hours, get a deposit against future hours worked. So really on the accrual basis, if they're, let's make it really simple, right? Because that's easier for me. If they're saying I'm taking money at $100 an hour, which if anyone's charging $100 an hour, you better talk to me. Okay, because that's not enough. So let's say they take $1,000 and they've worked 2 hours this week, 2 hours next week, 2 hours the week after that, and they spread it out over 5 weeks. Really, on the accrual basis, that $1,000 does not come into income until each of those weeks are complete.
Correct. Yep.
How do you keep track of that?
Well, you can. It all depends on how often you're invoicing. So some people, you could look at it twice a month.
Well, they're invoicing in advance for future hours as opposed
No. I mean, like, how often are you transferring it and looking at your time? Are you doing it Are you doing it twice a month? Are you doing it once a month? Are you doing it weekly? The people that are doing it weekly are, have a full-time, like, office project manager that's kind of looking like their job is more to do that kind of
tracking the hours and then
and being able to do that. So
okay, well, you might need a fourth account for that actually then.
yeah, but so it's all about that. It's all about communication, because I've seen it a million times where that tax preparer just assumes that it's best for them to do one thing, and then if there's a lack of communication, again, it's all about the communication. If there's a lack of communication, then the following year it's like,
yes, no, it's true.
A big bill. So
there's a million guys. I know, like, I work with you interior designers every day and industry partners, and there are so many of these questions that I can give you my thoughts on, but often you'll hear me saying, you need to call your accountant. You need to talk to your bookkeeper about this, because I don't know exactly the way you are running your system, and you want to make sure you're never out of compliance with the IRS unless you're making a decision to do that. That's your decision. But you want to know what you're doing. And once you feel in control of all this and learn this by talking to your accountant on a regular basis, it's so freeing. It's so freeing because you're like, I just get it. We tend to run away from things that scare us. And because we're, you ladies and gentlemen listening are all creatives, that sometimes you run from this stuff. And even I do, quite frankly, half the time. My accountant chases me down. He's like, I need you to go over these reports. I need to know where this money came from and where it went. And I'm like, why? I put it all in QuickBooks. Like, what do you need me for? But he needs clarification. That's just the way it is. You cannot run from your numbers. So Christine is asking, for once and for all, are designer services, design fees, and by the hour, so basically any profit, subject to tax? So many different opinions on this. Christina, you're talking sales tax or you're talking income tax? Obviously income tax. So it's got to be sales tax she's talking about.
It depends on the jurisdiction, but most jurisdictions do not charge sales tax on services.
So Christine is in New York. Do you happen to know New York? I think you're in Rhode Island.
Yes. In New York, well, it depends on what.
Suffolk County.
Yeah, I don't know about local ones, but there's only a couple of states that.
So actually,
New York does not charge sales tax on the last time, I saw it, didn't. Hold on.
Where would we Google? So, because people on this broadcast and people who re-listen, and if anyone shares the broadcast, it'll go out more. So please share. Where would they Google to find
Let me
out
give
for
you
sure in
a,
their jurisdiction? What would be the words they use?
okay. So there is actually a website called Avalara, Avalara. They do, they'll help anyone with sales tax compliance, but they also have a lot of information on, they have resources on their website that are it's constantly updating, where you can either put in where your project is, if you get a new project somewhere, or where your office is, or whatever's happening in your life, and get resources, or in your business, and get the up-to-date laws, because these laws are changing. As the cities and towns are trying to get more money, they're changing the rules all of the time.
Okay, give me that website again.
Yep, no problem. It's called Avalara. It's Avalara.
.com.
Yes, and they help you with sales tax compliance. But
Okay.
and obviously if they're helping you with sales tax compliance, they're charging you, but they also have quite a bit of free resources on their website.
And in addition, they can just ask their CPA or their accountant.
Oh yeah, yep. So if you are thinking about taking a project somewhere else, and it's one of those things that who knows? But a lot of times I don't like to just give advice like that based on it, because things change all the time, and every jurisdiction has different rules that are changing all the time. So I would hate to say like, oh, I think I'm just like.
This is Allison. She's here on Long Island as well. So she said, yes, you have to charge tax. New York State Department of Finance.
Yeah, you can file it online.
Okay, this is the website that Peter mentioned. I was able to put that in chat. I'm getting very talented at this, guys, even though I took 2 months off. Okay, let's see what else. Oh, Luann said the same thing I did. You can ask your CPA. And Nicole said Nassau County, yes, but I know. So, okay, here's another question though. I could be on for hours with this because things keep popping in my head. Is it based on where the job was performed or where you are working out of?
It's usually based on where the job is performed. But I will tell you that different jurisdictions have different rules based on that. Sales tax is one of the most complex and annoying things. It's because it's changing all the time.
Yes.
So I would say just before you even start working on a new project in a new area or wherever, just make sure that you're doing your research before you get any contracts out, before you're pricing anything, because your client will want to know, the total amount that they're going to be paying for it. And if they're subject to sales tax and different things based on where they are, then it's a different price point that they're going to be paying on.
Okay, so I will tell you, for 17 years, I ran Expressive Living Art Framing and Accessories, and I was based out of Nassau County. And I don't think I did that right. I think that I always charged just 8.625%, which was the sales tax, no matter where the client was, New York City, Suffolk, because if you start collecting all these different jurisdictions, that's where you have to submit them to also, correct?
Correct, yep.
So I could have gotten in trouble
though. If you had gotten audited and they found out, then yeah. I am looking at something that I can, after the fact, if anyone sends me an email and they're in New York, I can send them, because on their New York State website, there's quite a bit of details of what's a service that is subject to sales tax and what isn't. So
I think the interpretation of that's the problem, Peter.
Exactly. Oh no, I agree. That correct. So that's why you want to, whoever you're getting advice from, you want to make sure that they know exactly what kind of work you're going to be doing on the project.
All right, so last question, and then I want you to tell everyone how to find you because, like Luann said, you know what? I think everybody needs you, especially because you specialize in interior design, which I think is, I'm known for niche is rich and broad is broke, and you are the epitome of that when it comes to an accountant. Was it scary for you to niche down?
Oh yeah, just because you never know, like what if they don't like me, right? But
What's that like?
but for me personally, like you'd hear more on that Luann's podcast episode. I just got so bored with the traditional, like mundane everything that I was like, I need to pick something and just kind of shake it up.
Well, picking interior designers definitely shakes it up. That's part of the reason why I coach them also, because I feel like everybody's business is so unique. Everybody's personality is so interesting. It's not just product coming in and out. And it's always a challenge, right? Because you're working with a ton of people.
But when I used to go visit everyone, I'd have more fun when I was going to the design firm than the other industries. So
okay. So everyone's definitely asking this so as a designer who lives in Virginia and serves Pennsylvania, which state should I be paying to?
If you're doing a project in Pennsylvania and you're buying product in Pennsylvania, I would imagine if you talk to someone from Pennsylvania, they're probably going to be looking for sales tax.
Okay, wait a minute. You said buying stuff in Pennsylvania. They buy from all over.
No, but I mean, like if they're buying somewhere and it's being shipped to a project in Pennsylvania.
So technically, they should be collecting Pennsylvania sales tax and paying to the Pennsylvania jurisdiction.
Correct.
Boy, all right.
So I've got to tell you that a lot. I will tell you that if we had, if we had a million different examples, there's probably people doing a million different things. Yeah.
Make a decision and own it, like Luann just said. This is just what we do.
There you go. This is what I've been doing.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so and there's other jurisdictions that I know that clients have called where they live or where they're gonna be, and then they got answers that from the actual jurisdiction and then we looked and it wasn't true. So, I can say that use that website and look at the resources and then see if you are looking into a project somewhere, then to get really like kind of complicated and bored, there's things called nexus that different states have their own ideas on what nexus is, and if you fall in that nexus trap, they're gonna expect it.
Oh boy! All right.
Are they gonna find everyone in every state? No, but if you're big enough and you're working there and you have certain, there's certain things about your business that's in there, and they find out, then it's possible.
I don't know. Sometimes I feel like they go after the small guy.
Well, that's probably true. Yeah.
That's a problem too. So, all right, Peter, tell everyone how to find you because I think you're going to be getting a lot of phone calls or emails. So make sure you do whatever you can respond to.
My website is www.thedesignercpa.com. You can find us on Instagram and Facebook at The Designer CPA. And my email address is peter@thedesignercpa.com. So if you have any questions.
Designercpa.com. That's all I'm going to put in, guys. You can go to his website to get everything else. But Peter, feel free. I think it's coming up, thedesignercpa.com. Feel free to go in after and put in all your information and comments because I think, to make it easy for people, that is key.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I can't believe we actually talked about taxes and money for an hour. And usually I find that brutal, but this was very enlightening. And what it tells me is that there's always more to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. Things are changing all the time. So
changing all the time, and you need to pay the experts to do what they do best. and leave yourself in your genius zone, making what you deserve. If you're having trouble doing that, reach out to me, nancyganzacoffer.com, where you will have all ways of getting in touch with me. And if you're not in my group, the Interior Design Business Forum, please get there by going to the interiordesignbusinessforum.com. It used to be called Actionable Entrepreneurs, but I'm niching down even more too. So have a great weekend, guys. Thank you again, Peter. Thanks, Luann, for showing up. And if you have not gotten your tickets for Luann Nigara Live, scroll down in the comments and get them now. They're really selling fast, and you want to get them before the price goes up. This is the rollout price. So talk to you guys all soon, and I'll see you next week. Next week, I have Fred Burns on. So I'll see you then. Bye, guys.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.